Hello, everyone. I saw that there were a few of you on already, but nobody had said hello. That worries me a little bit. So I set this up this time so that only subscribers could chat. I think, oh, good. Hi, Nina. Thanks for saying hi. I think most of the people who attend this, oh, good. Okay, there it goes. Great. I think the people that attend this regularly are all subscribers to the channel. Yeah, and so you'll be able to chat. But I set it up where you have to be a subscriber to the channel to be able to post in the chat during the live stream, which hopefully will eliminate some of the nonsense. Maybe not, but we'll see. So if you are trying to chat and it won't let you, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and it won't let you just subscribe and start chatting. So because that would make it too easy for the spammers and junk like that. Well, we're glad to have you here, Lynn. All right, so it's 7 o'clock. Let's get started. Give it the verse of the Kesa. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Three bows. Fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present. It fills our sacred space, guards our minds from wrong thinking. Fragrance of this incense unites us with virtue, mindfulness, and wisdom. We offer it on behalf of all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for refuge. Being one with the Buddha, I resolve to each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for refuge. Being one with the Dharma, the gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for refuge. Being one with the Sangha in the spirit of universal fellowship, and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with the boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. Do a 20-minute silent meditation tonight. I'm setting Insight timer for the timer. If you'd like to do that with us, you're Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now, and reciting the sutras, hearing the dharma, and training the mind. Great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to all ancestors of the Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. May their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for the health and well-being of all those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, and those ministering to the sick and the grieving. We pray for those suffering from violence, for the oppressed, for those imprisoned, and for all refugees. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabe sata sadahantu avera sukajivino katang punya phalang maihang sabe bagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings springing from the good we have done. It's good to have you here. Better late than never, right? So, Steve, that's a good question. Silence is silent. Now, there are occasions where it might be appropriate to have some sort of white noise or something. You know, a lot of the guys at the correctional institution, you know, there's no such thing as quiet there, right? So a lot of them will listen to ocean sounds and, you know, ambient music, you know, new age-ish stuff, that kind of thing, which is better than nothing. But when you're meditating, you're not just, I can't get my glasses clean, sorry. When you're meditating, you're not just relaxing, right? You're not just calming your mind, you're training your mind. So you need to be aware then of what's happening in your mind and undistracted from what's happening in your mind. So generally speaking, listening to music or bells or things like that is not really conducive to training your mind. It's not a bad thing to calm down, relax, go to sleep, whatever. But for meditation, I don't encourage listening to stuff other than listening to the nonsense that your mind presents you with so that you can let go of it. You know, that's really what meditation is largely about. You know, meditation is, as the Buddha taught it, there's three things or three factors of the Eightfold Path that relate to meditation. Right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So right effort means being aware when mental states that are unskillful have arisen, that you let go of them and you make an effort to prevent their re-arising. And you develop mental states that are skillful, and you try to cultivate those. So, for example, when we're doing the Metta Sutta and we do that chant, may I be happy and well, etc., that is cultivating that goodwill. And so we want to sustain those. So in meditation, you know, a lot of time people have been practicing meditation for a while. When you sit down and start to meditate, this sort of feeling of goodwill, this feeling of happiness arises, and then you want to share it with everybody. And that's kind of how meditation starts, almost spontaneously when you've been developing that. So that's right effort. Right mindfulness means being, There's a bunch of different definitions of mindfulness, but it basically means remembering to be aware of where your mind is. What is my mind doing? And remaining aware of that, and then redirecting it in skillful ways when it has gone off the rails. And then right concentration is having an appropriate meditation object, which can be just meditating, noticing what thoughts come up and letting go of them. But, for the most part, we teach people things like meditating on the breath and that sort of stuff. Now, there are meditation practices where you might meditate on water, fire, wind, air, things like that. I love to meditate by the ocean and meditate on the sound of the waves, but that is something organic. So when you're listening to a recording of something, your mind starts to pick up patterns and it starts to look for those patterns. And so your mind is looking for those patterns instead of being natural, So that doesn't mean, by the way, you shouldn't listen to music or even meditative music if you like that. But listening to music can be a contemplative practice, to really sit and listen to music. It's not mostly what people do. Mostly people put on music in the background or while they're driving or while they're working out or whatever, which is fine too. I do that. I go to the gym, I put in the ear pods and I listen to music. Nothing wrong with that. But to really listen to music, to get a piece that's complicated, and just focus on what's going on there and try to listen as deeply as you can. That's a way to train the mind too. But that's not generally what we're talking about when we're meditating here. So, but some people have a real difficult time concentrating without something, or they live in environments where silence is tricky. I admit I considered trying some things myself because my tinnitus or tinnitus, I think it's correctly tinnitus, but a lot of people pronounce it tinnitus, ringing in your ears, it's exacerbated by silence. So on a retreat, just did this sesshin, Zen retreat for multiple days. And we practiced noble silence, which meant talking was kept to a minimum. And there was lots and lots and lots of silence in the Zendo. And, the ringing in my ears gets really bad at those times. Well, one of the treatments for that is something that makes a little noise. Considered it. But, for now, I'm kind of preferring to be okay with the ringing in my ears. So when I did a Goenka retreat, one of those Vipassana retreats, a 10-day, really, really deep silence retreats, it got real bad for a while. And, but, it passed. So anyway, I encourage you to meditate on what's going on in your head for the most part. Meditate on your breath or whatever, and don't rely on distractions. Now, many years ago, back in 2003 or so, when the people who had started Volusia Buddhist Fellowship didn't want to run it anymore. So I ended up, running the meetings, facilitating, would be the proper term back then. And at some point, we tried guided meditations and people really liked them. So we continued doing guided meditations for a while. So, and I'm almost sorry we did, except that I try when I do guided meditations to make them for a specific purpose, and they're instructional. They're not intended to be, you're not really intended to meditate on the guidance. The guidance is there to teach you how to do a certain technique or meditate in a certain way. But still, you're better off not even relying on guided meditations. Because, you get your mind. And whoever's recording that guided meditation doesn't have your mind. They have their mind, right? And so, you need to work with what's going on in your own mind. Feel free to post questions like that, you guys. I have something I'm going to talk about tonight, but it's always good to talk about what is on your mind, what is, you're welcome, and what is, important to you. It's a lot more, it's actually more interesting to me if I know what you're working with and can address that. And, if there's one person, there's sometimes 100 people watch this thing, not all live, obviously, but they'll come back and watch it later. I guarantee you that probably 10 other people at least had that very question, because I get asked it a lot. And whatever question you have, probably there's somebody else with the same question. So don't ever be shy about asking questions. So I mentioned the retreat. Give me a minute. I gotta clean my glasses properly. I can't read my notes. I'll be right back. my glasses thing is just the other side of my desk. That's so much better. I can see you now. Actually, I can't, but you can see, but I can see my notes, which is kind of important. So I mentioned the retreat, the sesshin. And while I was there, I was scheduled to give the Dharma talk at White Sands on Sunday. And so I started thinking, like, what am I going to talk about Sunday morning? And I started kind of working on this idea that I ended up talking about some of this on Sunday morning, and I'll share some of it with you now, and some more of it, some other thoughts I've had since Sunday morning. So one thing, when I was getting ready to set the service up today, the YouTube chat thing, I thought about something. So my father was born in the 1920s. I'm thinking 1928, if I remember correctly. And he had a brother who was physically and mentally challenged in some way. I'm not real sure exactly, but I think he was bedridden, and I'm sure that there was a communication problem and that sort of stuff. And so but he was a devout Christian. And there was one preacher on the radio. So this was before TV, this would have been, he was my father's, I think, oldest brother. So, this would have been in probably the early 30s that he was talking about this. He died when my father was pretty young. But he was telling me one time, my father died in the late 90s. So it's been a long time since I had this conversation with him. But he was telling me at one point about his brother, and how he would listen to this one preacher, and I don't remember which preacher it was, but he loved this preacher. And so he'd lie in bed and listen to it on the radio. And this was before TV, It wasn't interactive, obviously, but apparently he would try to sing along, I'm sure these radio church services were probably pretty entertaining. I'm sure they tried to make them pretty entertaining. I suspect that there was a lot of gospel singing, and, the preacher was probably pretty, probably a pretty dynamic guy, lots of Bible thumping and, fire and brimstone and that kind of thing. But anyway, he listened to it all the time, and he really felt like he got a lot of benefit from listening to these services, and it became a real, important part of his life. And I was thinking about, the number of religious services now available on YouTube, including this one, and how, there may very well be people who, not necessarily even because of a physical inability, but they're just someplace where, like, Buddhism is not available to them, or there's work schedule. Back then people worked Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and then they had the weekends off, and that's practically unusual these days. People's work schedules can be all over the clock and that kind of thing. So I think that these kinds of services serve a very useful purpose in a lot of people's lives. And so anyway, I was thinking it during the retreat about the concept of spiritual retreat generally. And, there's a real value, I think, to setting aside a period of time just to spend on yourself, on your spiritual practice. We're pulled all kinds of different directions now, by our commitments, by our obligations, by our electronic media, and I see people who spend their whole life with their phone in front of their face like this and that kind of thing, to take some time to just look at what's going on with you. I think there's a real value to that. And so, a session, it's great. It was 3 days plus 3 full days plus the evening before and the morning after. So 3 full days. And, you can make a lot of progress on meditation and on getting to see more clearly, what your own mind is up to, and training your mind by doing something like that. And so Zen, when I first went to a Zen retreat, I had been to retreats at a Thai temple, so Theravada style, studying Vipassana meditation. I'm not going to go into the differences in the kind of meditation. I don't think it's particularly relevant, to be honest with you. I think if you can, train your mind, one form of meditation is just probably as good as the other, but different things are available in different ways. But anyway, at the Thai temple, there was a certain amount of formality. You bow in a certain way when you come in, and you bow in a certain way when you leave, and you bow before and after Dharma talks and all that kind of stuff. And there's chanting, and it's chanting in a language that you don't understand because it's in Pali, and all of this. And things are done in a certain way. And I realized early on when I started practicing this way and going to retreats and things like that, that was all a part of training the mind. Not just the sitting on the cushion in the silence with your eyes closed or focused on the floor or whatever, but all of it is training the mind. And the, training the mind when you're not on the cushion, by doing the chanting, by doing walking meditation, by doing the bows and all of that, is just as valuable, if not more so, because it kind of helps your mind get used to the idea that you're not just training your mind when you're meditating, but you're training your mind when you're living. And so the first time I went to a Zen retreat, it took that formality of the Thai retreat and just quadrupled or quintupled it, or multiplied it tenfold. It was so formal to me. But once you kind of get into the groove of it, you realize, that's because you're trying to teach your mind to be a certain way, to react to be in reality in a certain way. And having that time for spiritual retreat, even if your time for spiritual retreat is just the time you get to finally sit down and watch this video or another video like it, it's still an opportunity to really be present with what's going on in your own mind. So, why do this? And I was thinking like a retreat is kind of like going to band camp would it be, or baseball camp or something like that. You have several days where you're really immersing yourself in developing certain skills. Well, you can't do that all the time, but you can also do that for an hour at a time. And so, what skills are you developing here? Well, there's spiritual skills, and they're not like ESP or mind reading or levitation or anything like that, but skills in how to live a more meaningful life. And sort of better the skill being able to better answer the question, what is this? What am I here for? What is it? What is this? And why? Those things, meaning and purpose. So having healthier values and living in a healthier way, a spiritually healthier way. So there's a few things that you can kind of do that maybe you think about when you attend a service like this, online or in person or at a retreat or whatever. And the first is the idea of listening to the Dharma talk. So that's the obvious thing. All the chanting and the meditation and stuff like that are there too, but listening to the Dharma talk is not like putting on music in your car, right? Or listening to a podcast on your way to work as background noise just to make the drive more entertaining. There's a skill involved in here. And the first thing is to kind of evaluate the speaker. This is sort of the first step in faith in Buddhism. Look at the person talking. Does the person have something of value to share? So there's a lot of people who want to talk to you. There's not a lot of people have something of value that they want to share with you. So that's why great teachers teach. Jim, who led the session talk, said probably half a dozen times that he does this out of gratitude to his teachers because they changed his life. And so that's why he's sharing. And I think the best teachers, that's why they do this, because they transformed in some way based on instruction that they got. And so they want to pass that along. So out of gratitude to the Buddha, out of gratitude to their personal teachers and the line of teachers from the Buddha down to now, that's why you teach. And so once you kind of established, all right, this person is worth paying attention to. They have something, they've been somewhere I want to go. They have something that will help me get there, and they're willing to share it freely. Then draw close. The Buddha gave this instruction, draw close. Well, that really means pay attention. I mean, obviously, you're not going to draw close to me because you might not even be watching this at the time that I'm giving the talk, and you're certainly not, in my office with me, right? But drawing close, draw your mind close to what's going on. Pay attention. If you're thinking about what's going to, is this going to get more interesting? What am I going to do when I finish doing this? What do I need to do tonight before I can go to bed or whatever? Then you're not drawing close. Your mind is not in the same room with the talk, it's somewhere else. So bring your attention here and then listen to what is said. Good listening, good teaching involves good listening. And good listening involves really having a presence to what's being said. And that means quieting your responses to it. So, when we're having a conversation with somebody, I know this happens to me too. A lot of the time you're listening to what they're saying, but you're really thinking about what you're going to say in return. So you're probably not going to talk back to me unless you post something that, a question, which actually I would welcome. But like a lot of the time you're thinking, well, do I agree with that or not? What, that doesn't sound right to me, or, oh, that's whatever. You're commenting on what's being said. So try to stop that. So during the retreat, during the session, Jim, I don't misunderstand. I love Jim, and I value him highly as a teacher. But he comes from a different perspective than I do. And so there were more than once that he would say something. I go, I don't know that I agree with that, Well, The thing is, you can get really caught up in that, and you're evaluating whether you're agreeing or disagreeing with some point that probably didn't really matter that much in the great context of things. So let that stuff go. Now, if you find yourself frequently disagreeing with the teacher, well, either, that might tell you something important. But a lot of the time, the little walls that go up are really kind of insignificant. They're just distractions from being able to really hear what's being said. Once I put up a talk on YouTube. It was a talk I'd given at White Sands, I think, and I had mentioned some Pali word, and I don't know. And somebody posted this like 500-word response about the way I used the word and how inaccurate it was. So it was really like a very, very, first of all, it wasn't really that inaccurate, but that's okay. There was a subtlety there that he felt I should have caught that I didn't, which had absolutely nothing to do with what I was saying. And so a lot of the time, that's where the mind goes. I know something that guy doesn't. And then your mind is off and running. So listen to what's being said, quiet your responses, comprehend the meaning. And that doesn't mean so much know what I was talking about, understand what I said. It means comprehending, what does this mean to me? It's interesting. Sometimes people will come up and they'll quote me back to me. They'll say, "Oh, it was so great with this thing that you said in this talk you gave." And I'll hear it and I'll go, "I'm pretty sure I didn't say that." I won't say it to them, though. I won't tell them that, because in the context of the whole talk and their life, that's what they heard. They heard something that meant something to them and that helped them change the way they were dealing with something going on in their life. And so that's the important thing. That's what you want to get. You want to get those little realizations about how this applies to you in your life so that you can put it into practice. What are you being asked to do? Not by me, not because I tell you to, go out and do this or do that. What is your realization asking of you? What is it asking you to change or do differently? And then try it out. What happens when I practice based on this thing I heard? When I lived a little bit differently because of this thing I heard, and then be aware of the results. Realize the results. How is your life better as a result of putting this, whatever this thing is, into practice? And that helps you keep going. Koyo Kabose's favorite mantra is keep going, his turning word, keep going. So in Buddhism, that's what faith really amounts to. It's not, well, this guy that I'm told to respect said this thing that I'm supposed to believe, so therefore I believe it. No, it's not that at all. It's this guy that seems to have something that I want, said something that resonated with me in a certain way, and I put it into practice and I realized the results, so I'm going to keep doing this. And that's faith in Buddhism. So, that's the Dharma talk. We can talk about meditation sometime. We can talk about chanting sometime, because it's still kind of the same thing. Training my mind to develop skills that are going to help me live my life in a better, more meaningful, more purposeful way. So anyway, we seem to be just about out of time, so I'll stop talking there. But thank you very much for being here tonight. If any of you do I use my mala during silent meditation? Not usually. Sorry, I got distracted because somebody posted something inappropriate. So we might have to do something a little bit more drastic with regards to who can post. We'll figure that out. Anyway, Do I use mollusks during silent meditation? I have worked with that. I know some people who do that. I will sometimes, if I have a fairly short period of time to meditate, but for whatever reason I want to meditate, I might do the nimbutsu once around with my mala or something like that. Helps to count time off, you know. So, if I use the mala, I've said Namo Amida Butsu 108 times. But generally speaking, no. But, the fact that I don't use something doesn't mean you can't. If you're doing something like that and you're finding it helpful to you, then by all means continue doing it. It's a legitimate thing. Yeah, I just reported them. Yeah. And is that helpful? I mean, do it to count breaths? Sure. So meditating on the breath, what I was taught, and you might try this, and this is what I was taught at the Thai temple, was start by counting your breaths 1 to 5, and then 1 to 6, and then 1 to 7, and on up to 1 to 10, and then start over 1 to 5. Jim, Ginjo Gallagher, Brevard Zen Center, tells people to count 1 to 10. So breathe in, breathe out, and as you're breathing out, count 1 silently, mentally, but for the whole out breath. Things like that can anchor your attention on the breath. I like the 1 to 5, 1 to 6, 1 to 10 thing because I found this was when I was learning how to meditate and trying to develop, a good basis of concentration, which is why you would do something like this. That if I just counted 1 to 10, it kind of became too easy to just sort of let that happen in the background while I really thought about other stuff. But if I had to count, okay, 1 to 5, 1 to 6, 1 to 7, I had to really pay attention to the counting, which connected my concentration a lot more on the breath. So, experiment with that stuff. But again, if the mala works, great. It may eventually become kind of more of a nuisance than anything. That's kind of what happened for me. It was real helpful focus for a long time. And then at one point it was just kind of a pain in the ass. And so I just started counting my breaths. So, do what works. And over time, what works will change. You can expect that, so yeah, good question. All right, you guys, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing some of you, those of you who come on Thursdays on Zoom. I'll see you there. The rest of you, I'll see you at White Sands or back here on Wednesday. So 4 vows. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Friends, I respectfully remind you, life and death are of supreme importance. Time swiftly passes by and opportunity is lost. Each of us must strive to awaken. Awaken, take heed, do not squander this life. I'll see you next week.